Hello, how are
Hello.
you?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm actually going to move up my volume just a little bit. Yeah, my volume is actually low. There you go. Now I can hear you. So, how are you feeling this morning?
Good,
Good.
good.
Okay.
Been
I have a
been
lot of
busy all
questions for
morning.
you.
What's that?
I said I have a lot of great questions for you, and I know that people will be excited to hear your voice and your perspective. I'm just really excited about your book.
Good. Well, I'm ready.
Yes. Okay. So before I start, and while people are joining in, let me greet them. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning to speak with this incredible man. My name is Dea. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a singer and a songwriter, but I'm also an avid reader. And what that means is that I am a serious bookworm. Sometimes I'm reading 3 books at a time. I enjoy writing book reviews. It's really an incredible hobby for me. Now, I came across this book called Diesel Spirit. That is Roger Michael Morello's book. But before I start the interview with him, I wanted to read what is on the back of the book so you can get to know a little bit more about his story. Here it says Roger Michael Morello grew up in a broken home, dysfunctional family, and without a father. With no college degree, battling drug and alcohol abuse, depression, and a devastating betrayal that would rock him to the core, he had many odds stacked up against him in life. Diesel Spirit is his story of overcoming struggle and adversity, together with a collection of his thought-provoking insights written based on and inspired by his story of overcoming the odds to become the accomplished real estate entrepreneur he is today, owning and operating a $4 million rental real estate portfolio he built from scratch. That's impressive. Diesel Spirit is a reflection of a mindset cultivated through challenge, self-discovery, hardship, and represents real transformation. That is amazing, Roger. Wow. That is really amazing. So
Appreciate-
I wanted to ask you, started by asking you, um, there's so much in your book. And first of all, how did you come up with the title Diesel Spirit?
when I first started, I started posting online on Facebook. I opened up accounts in 2018. I think it was the summer of 2018, and I wrote a post where I talked about like a secret fraternity among broken people, broken individuals. And in that post, I said Diesel Spirit. I said this fraternity is made up of a bunch of diesel spirits, and it was just something that just kind of came out of me on the in written form. And it just was something that stuck. That I said, that's kind of, I've never heard that before. And then I just decided to kind of make that uh, like a tagline, something. And at that point in time, I had no thought process of a title of a book. Um, at that point, but I knew it was going to be something, a phrase that I was going to use in some capacity, um, because I think it perfectly describes who I am, what I'm about. Um, yeah.
I love it. I think that the name Diesel always makes me think of something that's fueled or something that
Yeah.
will ignite. It has power and fire to it. So there
Right.
is a lot of passion in this title. The first thing that I noticed when I opened your book, and there's that very first heart-wrenching chapter, it starts with the title in bold letters, Life is a Fight. That really caught my attention. Okay, that
Mm.
whole chapter had my heart pounding. And once that chapter, and I'm wondering for you, once you finished writing that first chapter, was there a moment where you went, wow, this really happened to me? Was there ever a time when you were in awe of that part of your life?
From when I was young until where I am right now,
Hmm.
of course, sometimes I have to, I'm so busy, and I'm constantly moving and doing things and continuing to try to strive to take myself to higher and higher levels. I stop and I take stock, and I think about, what I've accomplished up to this point. And sometimes you have to do that and give yourself credit and kind of, look at how far you've come. and not be so focused on where you're going and how far, more is still you have to go. And it's very hard for me to do sometimes because I feel like I'm just getting started. I mean, I've literally just feel like I've scratched the surface and what I'm going to accomplish. And see, a lot of people say that, but I have a very strategic, well mapped out game plan of exactly how that's going to happen. And that's the difference between, that's what differentiates people in success. But, my life went through steps and stages. I mean, I had when I was young, I thought, I really didn't know what to think. I was very lost in a lot of ways. And then as I went through life and went through different steps and stages, I got so far, I was able to see a little further, then I was able to see a little further, until I'm at the point that I'm at now. And I know that there's still places I'm going to go where I can't see right now that I'm going to be able to see even further from there. So it's definitely a journey. It's a long-term destination. Okay. And I'm happy, for where I'm at this point, for sure. Never saw myself here, no.
Okay, I'm going to go a little deeper with you and going back to that very first chapter, because I'm telling you, this is an impressive, it's an impressive display. The way that you describe your life here in a few pages had me going all the way back and thinking about what happened. Being a woman, a mother, a daughter, a sister, it put me in so many different places emotionally. And I'm going to read a couple of things from this chapter. One of them is when you get towards the end of it, you say, if you take anything from this, know that circumstances don't matter. You can be greater than your circumstances as soon as you decide to be. And, it makes me think about your awareness of accountability, because this is a beautiful way of stating your responsibility towards your transformation. It's kind of like what you just said. Right. I have a plan and I know that, I took steps and I made decisions in spite of my mistakes. This is a beautiful way of representing what you just said. Your book, even with the incredible insights that you have in the book, there's so many beautiful chapters. Some of them are raw and very straight to the point, but I have to say, some of them were extremely poetic. I don't know if you remember, but in the book review I wrote for you, I felt like the book was actually beautiful, even though one might look at it and say, okay, so you wrote your first chapter, you have all of these insights, they're amazing, but between the lines of those insights, there is poetry. There is a beauty that is so heartwarming. It's almost like, I hope that whoever is listening to this, guys, just gonna plug the book again on Amazon. Run and get this book, because it really is a beautiful book. I wanted to ask you, if you have a copy on you of the book, I wanted to ask you if you would mind reading page 21, and it's a chapter that's called Second Chances. And the reason why
you want me to read it?
Yes, I think the reason why it's so beautiful is because you yourself found your way to your second chance. And I think it's such a beautiful chapter. I'm going to open up on my page as well.
Oh, Second Chances?
Second Chances, yeah, on page 21.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Second chances. If you're lucky enough to get a second chance at something, don't waste it. Second chances are a gift, an opportunity to grasp what you let slip through your hands the first time, a chance to turn a wrong into a right, a closed door that reopens, lost trust that gets restored, a fleeting opportunity to do a great thing that resurfaces, a broken heart that has the opportunity to love again, a life that was almost lost but then found, a tormented soul in darkness that catches a glimmer of light, a help back up to your feet when you get knocked down, a welcome back in when you've been kicked out, a let's start over, a new chance to make a first impression, forgiven mistakes and forgotten lies, a fresh start at a new life. Don't take second chances lightly, because you may be highly unlikely to see a third. You'll be left always wishing, wondering, and praying for the second chance you took for granted and already let you pass by.
I just love this. I love this chapter. I hear the poetry in it. There's almost like, and actually let me read the last few lines, because this is how I hear it. I hear it like this, right? So I hear it. Let me go from a life that was almost lost and then found. So I hear it. A life that was almost lost but then found. A tormented soul in darkness that catches a glimmer of light. a help back up to your feet when you get knocked down, a welcome back in when you've been kicked out, a let's start over, a new chance to make a first impression, forgiven mistakes and forgotten lies, a fresh start at a new life. Don't take second chances lightly because you may be highly unlikely to see a third. You'll be always left wishing, wondering, and praying for that second chance you took for granted and already let pass you by. I mean, I read this chapter over and over, and I must say I have a lot of favorites, but this
Yeah.
definitely was something that really moved me. And the reason for that is that, you know, I believe wholeheartedly that all of us are here um, with some sort of a mission. Okay. So I believe, you know, and even when you say things, even in the book, you know, there is another chapter that you talk about that is that you talk about religion, for instance, and you bring
Right.
God into the picture, and you say that his strength or his power lied within your own weakness, your own lack of, you know, of belief, or your mistakes, or whatever it may be. And I happen to believe that, you know, we are made perfect in God's image, but we weren't made to be perfect. We're actually made to come into this earth with a mission of learning, with a mission of experiencing life.
Right.
Yes, some
Right.
of us have had harder than others. I think the beginning of your life, especially from a standpoint of a mother and a woman, I look into your life as a child and I just can't believe what happened to you. It is unbelievable. But I happen to believe that it was at that time that the finger was placed upon you and said, him. He is the guy that whose life would happen to him, but not just to you,
It's
for you,
happening for me. Yeah.
for you, so that you in turn would be where you are now.
Right.
Nobody, you know, we can't really know for sure how it'll play out,
Right.
but you can look at your situation and say, wow, look at this journey.
Yeah.
In spite of your successes now, in spite of what you've done with it, which is incredible, there is still the aspect of look at how this person went from here to here. Look at his journey. Look at the thing. Actually, you know, in your first chapter, at the very beginning, you said that, let me go back to the first chapter because I told you I was going to go back to it. Okay, so you say here, at almost towards the last page of the first chapter, today I'm not scared anymore. Today I know how to stand up to life. Today I believe in miracles because I am a witness to one. The miracle, that miracle is me. This is the declaration of, you know, miracles aren't meant to be kept events. Miracles are to be shared because they have the power to change someone else just as much as it changed you.
Right.
So in here you say, I have a responsibility. I have a mission. This is declared here. You wrote this. You said it. I
Yeah.
have a mission. I think that you have incredible things ahead of you. I am convinced like you that this is only the beginning, and it may not be necessarily another book. I think there is so much more. Even if there was a Diesel Spirit 2, of course, I love the thought of the merchandise. I've expressed
Yeah.
that to you. Where are the Diesel Spirit hoodies? I'm waiting for them. I'll see more. I mean, I think there is merchandise and more, so much more. And even though, you know, you told that you didn't, when you came up with the Diesel Spirit title, it wasn't maybe perhaps an idea of the book itself, right?
Right.
I think that the reasons why we are called, and I'm going to put that between quotes, we don't really know that, you know, it's something that happens to us and for us, but maybe in the time that you have the intention to write a book or the idea, or maybe they just came out with this title because you're focusing on a group of people that might have been the broken souls. I mentioned this to you once before. Only broken souls recognize broken souls.
Right.
So there is a group of us out there, you know, but you know, your insights are a byproduct of that broken soul. The beauty of this book is that it is incredible that for what you had to go through and endure in your life, you came up with how many pages? It's like, guys, it's 300 and I'm looking at the end here, 370 plus.
Yeah,
It's
I could
incredible.
have kept going, but at some point you have to, you know,
But
you have to
it's
cut it off.
incredible. It is incredible. And it's various chapters. I mean, it's various subjects. It is not just about your pain.
Right.
It's about things that you learned along the way, right? So let me tell you some of the chapters, and I love all the titles. Enemy Within, Heart, I Do, Prisoner, Transformation. These are amongst my favorites. Now, do you have a favorite chapter?
You know, I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't necessarily have a favorite. You know, they're all a reflection of something I felt at some point or another. Somewhere I've been, something I experienced, some lesson I've learned. So they're all my favorite. I mean, and I know that's not the answer you're probably looking for there, but um, it's you know it's why I did this in the first place. And it's even something that sometimes I can go back myself, and I've said before, sometimes I have to take my own advice. Um, and sometimes I can open the book, and I can read through and look at different things and remind myself of things that I already know, and we all need to do that at times. We all know a lot more than we realize, and we need to be reminded on a continuous basis. Otherwise, we start to drift into places and spaces that we never intended to be. And I definitely fall victim to that all the time, continuously. So it's definitely a tool that continues to help me as well. Amongst other things that I read and I follow and I tune into on a regular basis to kind of keep me on track. It's something that in writing this over the course of the last year and a half or so, it keeps me sharp and it keeps me tuned up. Because if a person doesn't do that on a regular basis and focus on keeping themselves aligned and keeping their focus directed in a certain area, they're going to easily, that's why people lose focus and they get off track, and they find themselves and they find their life in different positions where they never intended, and they have no idea how they got there. And it's all about conscious awareness.
Yeah, I love what you said about not having a favorite chapter, and let me explain why. I think that what happens is, as any kind of work of art, be a book or a painting or whatever is your product, right?
Yeah.
People will look into your journey and they will associate with things that resonate with them. So the beauty about the book and so many insights is because there is something here for everyone. I guarantee every walk of life is in here. It's almost like you were given this download of experiences, right? And you wrote about it. Yes, I resonate with some of the chapters, and I see myself in some of these chapters, but somebody else might see themselves in other chapters. It's definitely exactly a tool, a guide. And what I love about it is what you just said, that you yourself go back. That's called humility. Emotional humility is when you're saying, I need that tune up. I'm going to go back and look at some things, because we do get to live through life and forget some of the things. I love the reminders. I love to have a source. That's why I love reading, because I can go to a book and say, let's go back and read that chapter that said, what did it say exactly? It is a reminder. And this book is really so many things. It is so many
I think that if you allow it, people, you can become polluted by life, by your environments, things you're involved in, people around you. They say, distance yourself, you'll realize a lot. And you always find that people that disappear come back better. And people that start to try to take some time. You always hear take time for yourself. Sometimes it's okay to be self. Well, why do we always say that? What I've spent a lot of time. So in building my business over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, I've spent a lot of time alone, and I've spent a lot of time by myself, working, all hours of the morning, weekends. I lived very reclusive for a long time because it was what was necessary to put me in the position I'm in right now. Short-term pain for long-term pleasure. And during this period of time, this is where a lot of this downloading that you're talking about happened. It's where I started to really go through an extreme kind of state of metanoia, where I started to have extreme changes of mind, and listening to different theories and concepts and different people that resonated with who I was. Because for a long time I couldn't, my life wasn't working, and I didn't know why, and I didn't understand. And now when I look back, I understand is because I was, too heavily involved in what other people were doing, thinking, saying, other people were touching in on my life and on my mindset, and I was being too much of a follower instead of trying to put myself into context. And it wasn't until I started listening to, people that were in positions where I wanted to be, doing things that I wanted to do, and listening to, their mentality and the way they think, and the way they live. It was very different than my own. And it was a daily practice every single day, just kind of teaching myself these things, learning these things, and just diving in, into a lot of these different types of things where now I can speak it easily, and it just kind of just flows out of me. But if you would have talked to me, if you would have talked to me 7 years ago, I couldn't even remotely have this conversation. Okay. I wouldn't have known, I was very lost. I didn't understand a lot about what I talk about today,
Okay, so which brings me to actually the next question, but before I ask it, let me do this again. Guys, if you're joining and now we're talking about the book, Deeds of Spirit. I'm here with author, entrepreneur, Roger Michael Morello. And so back to you, Roger. What I wanted to know is, in the book, there's a time when you speak about, there's to me that felt like there was a sense where you felt alone, that you were alone, that you were the person who needed to pick up the pieces and move forward. And I think that when you spent all that time by yourself, steering yourself away from what people thought or what people were doing, it's sort of like the way that you were kind of like finding yourself. And I happen to believe that, in life, generally speaking, and this is for everyone, in any area of anyone's life, things don't really get better until you get better. You do the work for yourself. I mean, we can be in the middle of the worst of circumstances. If we are taking care of ourselves, of our minds, our souls, and our spirits, we can navigate through life without, in other words, being a part of things, but not having those things define who we are. And so when you took time away and you were by yourself, was there a point in time when you were faced with the question, because yes, we are alone in a sense, but what were some of the sources that you turned to, whether it be a person, a preacher, a book? Can you tell us some of the things that you used to help yourself get to the place that you are? Or maybe things that sort of popped into your life, even if they seemed accidental. A lot of times when you say, I'm going to step back, take care of myself, all of a sudden it seems that we're going to run into people, books, videos, movies. Can you give us some of the things?
I live by the idea, I judge a tree by the fruit that it actually bears, not the fruit that it talks about or that it claims. A lot of people claim things and they're not really producing in their life what they claim or what they think that they are. A lot of people, and see, that's a lot of people's problems. They think that they're more than what they are. And until you can kind of humble yourself down and understand that you're not what you think you are, then you can actually become what you want to be. And the thing is that, I mean, for me, I sought out people that were where I wanted to be, that exemplified, the maximum of where I wanted my life to go. I listened to different preachers. I listened to different highly successful, self-made millionaire, businessmen and women, people that actually bear fruit, that actually produce, that can prove it, that are out there actually doing things. They're not just talking about it. They're proven.
They're living it.
Okay. Yes. And so, I don't take advice, just easily from, I'm always trying to understand what has a person actually done, with their life, or what are they doing? What are their actions? I mean, are their actions backing up what they're saying? And for me, I just try to find people that do what it is that I want to do. And then I figure out how they did it. And then I do it the same way, because success leaves clues. And I just, I develop the same types of habits. And that's not only just kind of physicality where I'm working hard, everybody knows that, but it's in the mentality. The number one thing that separates successful people and unsuccessful people is the way they think about it, is the way they approach it in their head, their mentality around the way they look at their life, their relationships, their money, the way they look at, success, the way they look at abundance,
So you're talking about a mindset. And with that
everything
in
is a
mind,
mindset.
yeah,
Everything is a mindset.
with that in mind, what I wanted to point out is that as I am listening to you speaking about, I looked at the people that were already doing, and then what you do, you learn from them and you'll make it work for you. You
Right.
are now officially that person that people are going
Well,
to
see,
stop to.
and I
You're gonna,
appreciate
well,
that, but
people are gonna
I
be
don't
looking
believe
at
that
you
about
for that
myself.
now.
I really don't believe that about myself. I really don't, I'm on, but then again, no one has ever, I guess, arrived. I mean, whoever actually arrives, but I guess that's why I can continue to grow and I can continue to succeed and do things because, I don't believe, I don't know. I don't believe that, I'm constantly a work in progress myself.
No, that's true. But let me
Yeah.
interrupt you for a second. So here's what the point of this is. Now, you said it exactly in a way that has so much value, because here's the exact point. No one is a final product.
Yeah.
But in your process of becoming something, when you are still in your journey, still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
I think that people are now in a position to look at you and say, hey, look at what he's doing. You are
Yeah.
the example of someone who says, you know what? I took time away from everything. I
Right.
looked at life. I looked at those who were already doing something, and I model some of those examples to sort of find
Right.
what worked for me. I see you as now the person that people are going to be looking into for
Yeah.
what is in here, the value of this book. People are going to say, look, here's this guy. He went through a lot, right? And he became an incredible, he has a successful business. He wrote a book that's now a book that can help other people. This is a big thing. This is a journey that's incredible. Is it over? Oh, absolutely not. You have way more. Let me tell you something.
Well,
I
and
don't
and
know
and,
if you
and I
know
do,
what's
and
coming,
well, and
but
I
I
do,
think
and
you have
it's
a
hard.
lot to
It's hard
give.
to speak about, but there's a lot happening for me, that you can't apparently see, but eventually, I've got a lot. What I've been doing the last 5 or 6 years has been a tremendous sacrifice. It's been a tremendous struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely at some point it's going to really give me the blessing that I want,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that for a fact.
If you had the opportunity to go back and speak to yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to him?
Um, that's a good question. I would say, I would tell myself not to base what I can be off of what everyone else around me isn't. I can't
Wait, go
determine
back to that again. Go back. I would tell myself not to be
not to
yourself.
base what I can be in life or what I can do in life off of what everyone else around me
Isn't. See,
isn't
that's profound
right
right there. That is profound. Based on what everybody else isn't. I
isn't
love that.
right
Now,
because there was a lot of people around me at 12 years old that, if I would have based my life or my thought process or my mindset, which I did, and that was the problem.
okay.
And it's not until a person, and you just can't do it when you're young. You just
Oh,
can't do it when you're
absolutely,
young, and you might not be able to do it, even when you're in your early 20s. It really wasn't until I was 32 years old that there was a fine line drawn in the sand where I really started to develop my own way of thinking.
And you're correct. When you're a child, if you guys are watching this and you have been through something like this in your life, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that at age 12, any stage of a child life, they're not really supposed to know what they're supposed to do. This is why you have parents that protect, love, and provide for you,
Right.
that praise you in love. And every child deserved to have that. And if you
Right.
didn't have that in your life, some people, yeah, you grew to have a mission with it, and as they say, make lemonade out of lemons, right? But some people don't, and some people don't ever get to access that tool, that place, that the way that you did it.
Mhm.
deciding for yourself. It's almost just say, like you have a responsibility to heal in spite of the pain that was caused to you. And exactly what you said, not to become the person by the examples that weren't given. This is the depth of this. The examples that weren't given that should have been given.
Right.
That's why I think, I don't know. I mean, I read the book and I had to go back and read it again because when I do an interview, I obviously speed read through the things that I think caught my attention the most.
Mhm.
I feel like if you could talk to young people, right? And I'm not just saying children, if you could talk to the teenagers today or the young adults today, you probably have amazing things to say to them that would really inspire and change them. I mean, I don't know if this is a part of your plan or if this is something
Yeah.
that's come across your life in the future, but I hope that you do. I hope that you share because, I mean, there is no pain without purpose, as they say, right?
Yeah.
And I think that your purpose is probably even beyond what you can fathom. I still look at this book and I'm still in awe because, like I said, I went back, I look at the structure of the book and I said, okay, so the first chapter you tell your story, and then you have over 370 pages of incredible insights. But then I thought, I hope that people read between the lines.
Yeah.
I hope people see where you're coming from. And I think they do actually, because your intention is very clear in this book.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
And I always try to do that. I always try to be, that's why I'm direct, because your ability to be an effective communicator all lies in your ability to to come down and so your audience understands what you're saying. If you can't communicate effectively and your audience doesn't understand your point,
mhm.
so I make sure they get the point.
Absolutely. And
And,
you know
and
what? And you do it, I don't know if you guys follow Roger on social media.
yeah,
It's Roger Michael Morello. I love your posts because there are glimpses of experiences in there. And maybe if you don't have time to read the book, even by following your page, there is a mission there.
yeah,
Every day there's a nugget. You drop a nugget. You
yeah,
say something, and it's like, oh my gosh, I totally needed to hear that today. The other day, I think it was the post before the last one. I was like, okay, thank you. I needed that. So I
right,
think that you have a rhythm about it. You have a style about the way you express yourself that's unique to you. And I love that. I love it because you are so original. I've had talked to a lot of people in my lifetime,
yeah,
and I actually am going to start doing more interviews with authors. And I always find that everyone's is unique to their obviously experience and story, but
right,
it's not very often that you have somebody express it in the way that you do. You have a very unique style to you. But again, the beauty of it is that even when some of the chapters to me were, okay, this is very blunt, right? It is the truth as raw as it gets, but yet there is poetry. Who does that? It's like, it's amazing. I mean, look, I read a lot, so I can tell you that from a reader standpoint, as a crazy reader, because I read a lot, I really loved this book, and I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't really know what to expect. Of course, I was
yeah,
already following you on social media and reading some of the glimpses of the book, some of your advice. But when I read it, I was like, wow, I really experienced something here. And I am so happy that people get to experience that with you, get to do, let's say they will get to do quote unquote life with you, because this is a guide. This book is a guide.
yeah,
It's like the book you want to pick up every now and then and remind yourself that, what about second chances? What about pain and hardship? And even when you talk about pain here, there's always something at the end of that chapter that will loop you back to where it happened in the first place. It's
right,
almost like,
right,
here's the reason, here's what happened, here's the reason, but here's the answer.
right,
Here's the, one thing you can do, or one way you could do this.
yeah,
Can you tell everyone about now you have a podcast, correct? Because now I want to give you an opportunity to tell everyone or they can find you. What are your social media handles and your channels? And if you want, you can talk a little bit about where they find you in your podcast and etc.
yeah. So the podcast is relatively new. It kind of coincides with the book. I read it in every episode of the podcast, and it's still evolving. It's still something that, so I do a lot. What a lot of people may or may not realize, this is like like social media, the book, this type of stuff, podcast. it's actually a very small fraction of what I do. And if you follow me, you would probably think that it's like my main event, but my real estate business consumes probably 95% of my time right now, because I'm still very much in the building and construction phase of my business. But on Facebook and Instagram, I'm at Roger Michael Morello. I use my middle name in my handles, Roger Michael Morello. I use my middle name as much as possible because it differentiates me from my father, whose name is also Roger Morello, but he doesn't have the middle initial. And I want to be about as opposite from my father as humanly possible. So I try to, use a different name. But on social media, every single day, I do that. And then with the podcast, I do a excerpt out of the book. I read one of these insights, and then I do a whole podcast around what I've read from whatever different excerpt it is, and then and again, that's still evolving. Something that sooner or later, I'd probably like to put some more production value behind everything that I do and kind of grow what I'm doing. And as I continue to at some point here, my real estate's going to start to expand a lot more, and I want to do more around that. Morello Properties has its own social media as well that I also want to put. But right now, a large portion, so anybody that's involved with it, anybody that does it, anybody that's trying to be an author, anybody that's trying to build a social media presence, or anybody that's trying to really do anything, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. Particularly on social media, and particularly with writing a book and being an author and with a podcast. It's very crowded. There's a lot of people fighting for attention. And it's part of the reason why I choose to be as direct as I am, and I try to add value, as much value as possible every time I post something, because you have to stand out and differentiate yourself from the million of other people that are trying to gain people's attention. Right. The biggest threat that anybody that's trying to be an author, do social media, or build a presence is obscurity. You have to kind of rise above the noise. And a lot of the ways you do that is by having, solid success that you can prove and you can show people and help them understand how you did it, and so they can follow in your footsteps. And it's consistent, everyday, massive action and effort, even when you're not seeing any substantial results. And that's particularly with being an author or with being trying to have a social media presence. It's going to take years before your book might gain traction and come from obscurity, and people start to know about it, and this, that, and the other. And same thing with your social media. So, I've been doing on Facebook now. I've got just over 30,000 followers, and it took me 3 years of posting every day, to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely time
posting every single day and engaging with people every single day and working at it, and kind of like, every day I would go on the social media and I would work it, to get to that point. That's what people don't understand.
There are a lot of work behind the scenes, right? And also, of course, as you stated, you have a busy life and a business.
I've got a whole business.
Right, you have a business that, because it's successful, it requires even more for you to maintain that. It's a lot of work.
So for the people that do follow me on social media, so for the people that do follow me on social media, I do try to reply to everybody as much as possible. But when you post every day and you have a lot of people engaging, it definitely will never have somebody kind of posing as me to respond to people. If you're getting a response from
it would be hard to reproduce the way that you respond, right? Because you're so original. But okay, so at Roger Michael Morello, both on Instagram and Facebook, right? What is the name of your podcast so people can find you?
Diesel Spirit Podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on all of the platforms but mainly you can subscribe on Apple Podcast. You can do Spotify is where most people listen to it.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I don't have a YouTube
Okay.
channel yet. So
Okay. That's fine.
I try to hone in on just a few platforms,
Right. To limit
because I
so
don't
it's
want to spread
right.
myself too thin and then I'm ineffective.
Absolutely. So we are coming around almost the 45th minute of this interview. I could talk to you forever. I wanted to take
It
this
feels like
opportunity.
it's been 10 minutes.
I know, right? It feels like we just started, and you are so, there's so many sides to you. There's so many wonderful things, so many elements to you. And I wanted to congratulate you for writing this great book. I wanted to say thank you for being a part of today and making this incredible, having this incredible conversation. You are so many things in one. And your book is so many things in one. There was so much in here. I wanted to, I know it sounds like I'm doing a sales commercial, but I just love to display again. Great cover. There is so much.
So you can
branding
get
here.
the book the book is at Amazon.com.
Okay.
But there's a website, dieselspiritbook.com. You go on dieselspiritbook.com. You can see a bunch of different things that people that have read the book have said about it on social media. Different Amazon reviews are on dieselspiritbook.com. There's a Kindle ebook format of it too. So it's less expensive. It's priced less because obviously it's an ebook for anybody that doesn't want to spend the money on the paperback book.
And some people don't like to hold the book. I like to hold the book. I have to have it. People say I'm crazy. I like the way the pages smell. It's just a bookworm thing. But I do have to say that people, you will not be disappointed. Okay, you will not be disappointed. And just so you know, a lot of people that have hopped on this live here have made a lot of great comments. Even someone said it helped her grandson. A lot of people are sending their love and saying they love your book. I mean, you definitely have an effect and a following. And I think it's the way that you're personally branding yourself in a unique way. That's exactly, personal brand is about being yourself and original and unique.
Which is on purpose. I've focused on that,
Well, you're doing an amazing job. So I wanted to, is there anything else you wanted to add? I know you briefly mentioned about how you wanted to make sure you're different than your dad. You don't have to talk about it, but if you wanted to say anything in addition, you can. So I'll give you, go ahead. If there's anything else you want to add or anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to.
I mean, look, if you followed me on social media and you read the book, I mean, you know why I say that. Anybody that follows me religiously, there's no mystery as to how I feel about certain people in my life or how I feel about certain environments or situations. I put it all out there.
Okay. And it is okay. It is okay, because I think that the statement that you try to be different than your dad really isn't any more of a reflection of who you have become and the things that you're proud of. So it isn't about, I always like to hear people that are honest about the way they feel about other people. And the reason being is that, whatever people have done to you, it's on them. But they don't get to say how you feel about it, right? We get to take the way we want it. And I think it's great because you're taking a stand for people that maybe don't know how to feel about the things that happen to them. I think that you're representing
the biggest, most profound fight that everybody is ever going to fight is cutting the cord on, their life, where they came from, things that have happened to them. I mean, there's people out there that are still mad and upset over somebody that's dead now. I mean, they're not even, a part of their life anymore. Or, you can't continue to drag around things that are over, things that have happened. You have to draw a line in the sand and find a point where, you just let go completely and set yourself free from what was and what has been, and understand that what you're going to create moving forward is all in your mentality and in your mindset and what you want to believe about where you're going and what you're doing. And you can't allow somebody else or something to cause you to forfeit your one life and all of the opportunities that are possible for you, because you just can't let go, get out of your own way, and just kind of get past some sort of childish issue.
Absolutely. You know what I'd like to say too? I always say, don't let your storm define you, let it design you. Because I really feel that you can't, in other words, yes, it will affect you, But again, what you
Right.
do with that is your responsibility. You know, we
Right.
have the absolute responsibility to heal in
Right.
spite of the pain and in spite of whoever did to you, even
It
when you
all it
didn't
all
have a
happens
role in it.
for you. It all happens for you. And I understood that about my life, and I said, okay, look, now the stage is set. Now I'm gonna take all this and I'm gonna ball it up and I'm gonna use it for my good. And
And it doesn't
that's
mean it's easy, okay? Everybody
no,
should
it's
know
not
this.
easy.
It doesn't mean that it's
It's a
easy, but it
process.
is something that involves, I always say, you know what, we can lower our
Yeah.
expectations about other people, but you should never lower your standards. And with that
Right.
lies an incredible responsibility to become the best you can be.
Right.
It doesn't matter what happened. You may not get the apology. And like you said, a lot of people have passed on, and you don't have an opportunity to go back and fix.
And
We
see,
can't
there's a
fix it.
difference between, well, there's a difference between being bitter and holding on to, to bitterness and just completely letting go. And a lot of times people will mistake you for being a bitter, angry, spiteful, you're still mad, like no. See, people that are stuck in these types of limited mindsets don't understand people that have become free. They don't understand people that have just let go and decided to, not be held back and not be tied down. So it's not until, and that's why you have to leave some people behind,
Right.
because
And you know
they're,
what?
they're never going to understand that
Absolutely.
transition.
And when you say about the people that are here, as opposed to
Yeah.
people who have moved on,
Right.
two words come to mind: prison and poison. And I
Yeah.
think we need to be very aware. You know, we can't just, there's a pastor that I follow by the name of Pastor Kim Jones that says, you know, you can't sit there and drink the poison and expect that person to die
Right.
from it.
Right.
We need to be absolutely clear and responsible and have a mindset that helps us move forward, not move with and drag all this stuff with us. Because again,
Right.
yes, your pain sort of kind of helps you find your way, and you can define the way you feel about it, but you can't be defined by that problem. You have to use everything to make a decision, to have a different mindset. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay in prison.
Yeah.
So many people in prison. So many people are stuck with shame.
It took me a long time. I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be where I am if I was stuck on anything that you read in that book. If I was stuck on anything you read in that book, I would not be anywhere close to where I am. I would be the most limited, restricted, bound up. I mean, I'd go in my room and, it's just, you can't, you have to work on letting go.
Yeah. Eventually you have to do life. That's what it is. And just, I hope that again, your book will help open many prison doors. My wish for you is that you continue, even if you are at work, I know you never really not working or not doing something that's actually life-changing. So I know that you have that power to impact people, and I am proud of you. And
well, I appreciate the wonderful review you left on Amazon. I appreciate all the wonderful things you have to say about me.
Heartfelt. Let me tell you, heartfelt. I'm one of those people, I get approached a lot to write a book review, and I say, I will write, it's more like an endorsement, right? Because I said, I can't write a bad review. If I don't connect with the book, I would never say, oh, I didn't like it, or I put the person down, because it is a form of art. It's an extension of what the person is, right? So I appreciate it, but I don't always connect with the books. But every time I write a review, you bet it moved me. It moved me. So your book has done that for me. I really thank you for, bringing this into my life, this experience. And also thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. For everyone who's listening and who have joined us, thank you so much for your wonderful comments. If you wanted to follow, again, Roger's journey is at Roger Michael Morello. Check out his Diz of Spirit podcast. Check him out on all social media platforms. And follow me at Dea Ministry for more book interviews and other interviews. We're going to have a few little surprises. I don't just interview people who write books. I'm going to interview some amazing people who's coming up in the future. My name is Dea. My page is Dea Music Ministry. On YouTube, you can follow at Dea Music Ministry -DMM. And thank you again for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Now I'm trying to figure out how to end the live. Oh my goodness. I don't see the button to end the live. Isn't that funny? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure to see all of you and your wonderful comments. Get this amazing book, and have a great weekend.